it's as if it was like made of butter.
And the feel,
Absolutely no sense whatsoever. I'm sorry.
Smooth as butter. I think that's what you meant.
That's what I meant. I meant it's as smooth as butter. What's going on, guys? Waco from Revolution here with my trusty sidekick. Actually, I shouldn't even call you a sidekick.
No, it's fine.
He's a watchmaker, so he knows.
I'm the Robin to the Batman.
He knows much more about watchmaking than I do. He actually is the brains of the operation, and I'm just like the fool. You know? Exactly. That actually was my ambition. My ambition in life is like to be like, you know, like a third world dictator.
Okay.
But like just a figurehead, you know?
Right.
I just brought around. I have no idea what's going on. Everyone behind me is kind of like doing the machinations that actually run the country. And I just like show up in Windows and go like this. So, hello, greetings, welcome to Revolution, welcome from the Watch Bar. And so we have to also say we've had a really heavy weekend because it was the celebrations of Cortina's 50th anniversary. It was one of the best parties that we've ever been to.
How was it?
But it was a lot of drinking.
Okay.
I
wasn't there, guys.
I went home at a normal hour. However, I believe the party continued till 5 o'clock in the morning.
That's insane.
In of all places, Zouk.
Really? Okay.
I saw pictures of luminous bottles of champagne.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
And everyone dancing around till 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm being very old. I need my beauty sleep, so I had to go home. But nonetheless, so we guys, thank you so much for joining us. We would like to introduce to you our latest limited edition. It's a collaboration with Angelus watches, and it is called the Angelus Chronodate Angels Share.
Why Angels Share?
Okay, well, so Angels Share, and this is probably pertinent to the subject of massive amounts of drinking, is the portion of wine that evaporates either in your glass or potentially even in the barrel as the wine is being aged. And it is always perceived to have been consumed by God's best angels because it evaporates and goes to heaven.
Okay.
However, in this particular instance, we refer to the color of the dial because we think, well, what if this beautiful evaporated wine, instead of going all to God's greatest angels, please excuse us angels, actually is transported to the dial of the watch and colors it this magnificent salmon color, which is actually made using S6N rose gold. Right? Because the original watch, which is inspired by, was launched in 1942.
Yeah.
Right. So tell us a little bit about that watch, man.
Well, in the context of 1942, there weren't many chronograph calendar watches, right? But Angelus came up with a triple calendar chronograph, no less. So the date indication was printed on the periphery of the dial, and we had a month window at 12 o'clock and a day window at 6.
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting is it preceded the triple calendar chronograph, the Rolex reference 6036 or the Jean-Claude Killy, I think by about 9 years.
Wow.
Right? So, and then if we talk about, what other calendar chronographs were on the scene at that time, there was Patek Philippe producing the first serially produced perpetual calendar chronograph in 1941.
I think it's basically at this time it's only the 1518 that has calendar information and chronograph function as well. But bear in mind that watch was of course a watch made for kings or maharajas or titans of business. Whereas the objective of the Chronodate was to create a watch, I wouldn't say for every man, but for a much wider audience.
Completely agree.
Yeah, and it in the context of 1942 to have complete calendar information and a chronograph on your wrist. I mean, bear in mind this is just shortly after the real popularization of wristwatches. I mean, it's like walking around with a supercomputer strapped to your chest, basically.
Yeah, and what I really loved about the original watch was because the bezel was so thin, the dial went right to the edge of the case, and then you had two big counters at 3 and 9 o'clock. 3 o'clock was the 45-minute chronograph counter, and at 9 o'clock was the running seconds. And it was so completely legible and usable, as an everyday watch. Right?
So let's go back to last year. I mean, it's so funny how we've all kind of forgotten already about that kind of crazy year and a half, 2 years that we've experienced, right? In the context of last year when we were doing quarantines, sometimes weeks at a time when we all had to wear a mask where, you had to show your green pass when you're in Italy or in Europe I remember as soon as I was allowed to travel again, I said I'm going to go to Venice to go see my friends, right? So then I had to get my EU locator form. I had to get my my vaccination information.
So much paper.
And then I actually went to the Italian embassy here and had it all translated and then chopped officially so that I would have all of this documentation in case they wouldn't be able to read my English certification, right? I show up at I think it was Milan, right? And I have all my information in my bag and I'm about to whip it out.
Proudly show it, huh?
And the guy just looks at me and goes,
"Oh, really?"
Yeah, exactly.
Is that the Italian way?
I love the Italian way today. It's fantastic. Exactly. Yeah, and then it had all these bizarre rules. So in Italy, it was if you were going to be in some place for longer than up to 7 days, then you had to quarantine for like 3 days. But then if you were only going to be there for 3 days, then you didn't have to quarantine. And I was like, who makes up these rules?
Exactly.
This is incredible.
Exactly, yeah.
But anyways, this incredible time that we all lived through, this watch was launched by my good friend Bertrand Savary, who is the CEO of both Angelus and also Arnold & Son.
Yes.
And it is a homage to the original Chronodate, but with one very interesting modern twist. So instead of remaking just kind of a facsimile of the historic watch, which I kind of felt would have been pretty easy and probably extremely successful, I think he wanted to go a different route. He wanted to take some of that iconography, some of that function, but make a really kind of cool contemporary watch. So tell us, first of all, about the case of this watch, Jeremiah.
Well, what's special about this case is I think Angelus adapted the multi-part case from their Flying Tourbillon. So I think there are about 6 parts here. I think maybe we should start on the inside of the case because the movement is secured to a carbon composite center case. So it's completely isolated from the exterior of the case, and that increases the shock resistance greatly. And then,
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, you can see that, like, then on top of that, you have like this grade 5 titanium exoskeleton, right? Which incidentally is skeletonized, brushed, and also high polished at certain angles, like for example, on the edges. So you have the bezel, the case back, the 2 flanks on each side, which have massive amount of skeletonization.
And the center links.
And then the center links, so 6 pieces altogether, which from what I understand from Bertrand, makes it for a very costly case.
Oh, okay.
So, and then you've got these 2 oversized carbon composite pushers as well for the chronograph functions as well. It actually tells you what it says on, to start and stop on here in case you forget how to use your chronograph. Well, from drinking too much wine. Yeah, exactly. And it says reset over here. Grade 5 titanium crown as well. And then what I love actually is the dial. Like when I saw this watch, it wasn't what I was expecting, but I looked at it and I was like, dude, I love that watch. And the reason why I love it is the design of the dial. It's just so beautiful. I love just this crazy amount of different levels on it and also the wonderful use of contrasting textures. So the whole center expanse of the dial is grainé or frosted, or it looks kind of basically sandblasted. And then you have on top of these massive applied luminous Arabic indexes as well. They look almost 3-dimensional.
Yeah, I think they're rhodium plated.
Yes, rhodium plated surrounds, and they stand off of the dial, like with this profondeur, as they say in French as well. You've got these 2 massive counters, one for continuous seconds, one for chronograph minutes. Both of them has like some of the most minute scaling I've ever seen as well. And it gives off this beautiful sort of like sunray pattern as well. Then you have a raised track. This is for the minutes or for the seconds as well. And then you have the date indication just at the perimeter of the dial, which receives really subtle and beautiful brush circular finishing. And the combinations is absolutely beautiful. Like the amount of contrast that you see is really, really cool.
Yeah, I think we can both agree that the best designs incorporate elements of both the masculine and the feminine, and the modern or contemporary design language of Angelus is a lot more angular in terms of the case construction, but there are a lot of soft and more feminine touches on the dial, and it just completely works.
Well, I mean, I guess if you want to talk about soft femininity, like I guess the hue of this beautiful 6M rose gold, this salmon color is just that. It's this very seductive hue. It reminds me a little bit of sunrise, or I think I wrote in my story the cheeks of a beautiful woman when you tell her a scandalously dirty joke, right? Is that politically correct for me to say? I don't want to get canceled. Don't cancel me. Don't cancel me, right? And this watch also has a very efficient powerhouse of a chronograph movement as well, right? It's interesting too because I read some stuff about it talking about like its Valjoux 7750, I guess architecture, and you can see some elements of that as well. But what is interesting to know is that it's distinguished by the fact that it has, first of all, a column wheel. And second of all, it has a vertical clutch, which is completely different from the clutch system that's used in the Valjoux 7750, which is an oscillating pinion lateral clutch, right? And the huge advantage to the vertical clutch is you can let the chronograph run as long as you want, and you have no underlying effect on the timekeeping or the amplitude of the balance wheel. And if you want proof positive of that, all you need to do is start the chronograph, because when you start the chronograph, the second's hand moves forward so smoothly, it's as if it was like made of butter. That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. I'm sorry.
Smooth as butter. I think that's what you meant.
That's what I meant. I meant it's as smooth as butter. And then so when you stop it, same thing. When you start it again, so like with a lateral clutch, invariably you'll have a little bit of chronograph backlash where the hand jumps back a little bit or a little bit forward because you have the meshing of teeth. But because a vertical clutch meets this way, there's no meshing of teeth, and so it just moves forwards with this beautiful precision that you absolutely see here. So I can, and also I asked the brand as well. They have confirmed 100% that this is a vertical vertical clutch in here. So it's actually quite a high performance machine inside of this. Now, on the subject of the movement, on the rotor, we have this very beautiful Angelus symbol with the Angelus star.
Yeah.
But the star has a very interesting effect to it. The star is luminous.
That's
Check that out,
awesome.
right? And so you can spin it.
It's crazy. Nice.
Right? I think that's kind of a nice touch.
So cool. I really love the finishing, you know, on the bridges, you know, as well. It's, you know, there's kind of like brushing, you know, at the edges.
Yes.
But you know, there's sandblasting all over on the, you know, on the main components of the bridge, and it just looks so sporty and elegant at the same time.
I mean, it is genuinely a super cool high performance watch as well. And actually, it's engraved with the Revolution logo at the case back as well. I didn't even realize that. That's phenomenal. I'm very happy about that.
And quick release on the straps.
And then you can swap it off with, well, we don't actually have a second strap, but you can just walk around with it like this. You can hang it around your neck like a pen,
Like a necklace, like a wrapper, exactly. With a granny salmon dial.
That actually, I have to say, that's a beautiful watch. So anyway, guys, we made this in a limited edition of 25 pieces. They're here, the watch is here at the Revolution Watch Bar. I guess you're going to be seeing this video probably Friday during the afternoon. So if you want to come over to our watch bar that evening, starting at 6 p.m., we're going to be serving, of course, wine, champagne, our legendary Negronis, and you know, and
wait.
come and kick back, say hi to us, and we'd love to welcome you and to celebrate the creation of this watch. Bertrand Sabri, our buddy, will be here as well, and a couple of other interesting figures from the watch industry, right? So, and if you make
We'll keep you in suspense.
If you make it to the end of the evening, we're all going to go to the Gaylong and have crab beef, right? So,
Okay, cool.
Yeah, exactly. So, guys, thank you so much. Peace. Jeremiah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks,
It's a
Will.
pleasure, sir.
No, pleasure was mine.
Cheers.
Take care.
Bye.